Well, here we are again with our passage, Habakkuk 3:17 through 18. I have printed it out here on a sheet from the New American Standard Translation. I'll just read it again. Though the fig tree should not blossom, and there be no fruit on the vines, though the yield of the olive should fail, and the fields produce no food, though the flock should be cut off from the fold, and there be no cattle in the stalls, yet I will exult in the Lord, I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. Now, if we can remember those four things that I've encouraged you to observe as being terms, structure, type of literature, and atmosphere. So we'll start by looking for these four things, and we'll make some observations and we'll highlight them for you with various colors. The thing that probably jumps out to me, first of all, is the repetition of this word though, which is a conditional sort of structural marker. So we see it there, though the fig tree should not blossom and there be no fruit on the vines. We see it again there, though the yield of the olive should fail and the fields produce no food. It's actually in italics, which tells us that it's not in the original text there, but the sense of it, the translators think, is that it should be there to help smooth out the translation. And then we have it again here in that spot. So we've got it three times. We have this repetition of though. And then we have some things that come from the agricultural and the pastoral sphere of life. We've got fig tree, we've got vines, we've got olive trees, we've got fields, we've got flocks, we've got cattle. And so we've got actually five things from agricultural, pastoral life that are highlighted. So we've got 6 negative scenarios that are being suggested. And in effect what we have is that law of repetition, or restatement, that is being used here. So it's saying the same basic things 6 different ways. In other words, we could paraphrase this: if everything that could go wrong did go wrong, okay, and then we'll leave that there. So we've got 6 negative scenarios: the fig tree not blossoming, no fruit on the vines, the yield of the olive failing, we've got fields producing no food, we've got flocks being cut off from the fold, we've got no cattle in the stalls. And maybe another thing that we could highlight is the word not, no, fail, no, cut off, and no again. So we've got a negative situation that's being envisioned. Now, the main structural break in this passage is here between the 2 verses, and it's signaled by that little word yet, which tells us that there is a contrast. All right, so we've got all of these negative things that could happen, with our word though highlighting that. But yet there's a contrast. Even though all of these negative things should happen, the writer of this psalm, or this, it's actually is kind of a psalm, but the writer of this section of Habakkuk says, I will exult in the Lord, I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. And that's typical Hebrew poetry, which is, in this case, synonymous or similar parallelism. And so the second line says something that's very similar to the first. Okay, so we've observed some terms through that. We've helped to see the structure. We could see type of literature. Well, we're probably, because this is the book of Habakkuk, we're talking about prophetic literature. It may be something else. We'll just leave it there for now. But at the same time, then we also need to look at the atmosphere of this particular passage of Scripture. So this half of the passage is extremely negative atmosphere. Okay? Is if all of these bad things happen, but then we've got down here a very positive atmosphere that takes over the passage. So there's a real switch between negative and positive. All right. Now I think that's just a really helpful way to look at a passage, to take it apart, to look at the terms, the structure, the type of literature, and the atmosphere. And we've got some pretty good observations that are going to help us to interpret and apply this passage well.